Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of GIS Answers. Today what we'll be looking at is the state of Washington and the BFRO sightings, Bigfoot sightings within this state. We've done other states and you can go back and look at those videos if you like and check them out. And if you have any specific areas you want me to look into, just let me know in the comments down below. So what we're using here is RGS Pro, and you can access this software for approximately about $120 a year American. That gives you access to this software plus a wide range of other geographic information applications and online services and apps, as well as access to all of the data that's available within those applications. But anyway, this is ArcGIS Pro, so we'll get started. What we have is imagery, satellite imagery. As you zoom in, you get more detail. And we've also got, on top of that, labels, road labels and place name labels, state boundaries. And also what we've got is the Bigfoot sightings database from the BFRO. Those are in red dots. And we've also got USA parks, so national parks and state parks, as well as national forest and state forest, regional parks, county, and local parks. I'll just zoom out here, and what we'll do is zoom into clusters of sightings. And actually what I might do is change the symbology, the symbol for the Bigfoot sightings. And I just wondered if a footprint was available. Yes, but they're human footprints, unfortunately. But so we'll go with, yes, they're not perfect. They're human footprints. We'll use that for a bit of a laugh today. So we'll focus in on clusters. There's definitely a cluster here on the border with Oregon. And within this Gifford Pinchot National Forest, there's certainly a cluster of sightings. Now, the BFRO database is broken down into counties. So I'm thinking we might have to have the counties turned on. So just turn those on in the layers on the left-hand side. So turn those on. And as you can see, it'll give you the name of the county, hopefully. So anyway, let's zoom in and have a look at some of these. There's definitely a cluster over here. Skamania County. I'm going to close the symbology window there. August 2004. Vocalizations and tense sighting reported by a couple hiking and camping near Trout Lake. So let's have a look at this. So it's Skamania County, August 2004. Skamania County, there's 65 sightings. So this is Washington State broken down by county, and Skamania has 65 sightings. Pierce County has 63, so it's a bit more, but 65 sightings is quite a significant number. So August 2004 we're looking for. Okay, so this is it. Skamania County, August 2004. The location is the campground for hikers on Mount St. Helens, known as Hikers Bivouac. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Campground is located at the mouth of St. Helens Trail. Nearest town is Cougar. At approximately 2 a.m., 35 campers were awakened to the most god-awful screams in the woods. They sounded like a wounded animal, and we thought maybe a wounded cougar. Others in the campground thought it was a bear. 6 of us went to try and determine the source of the noise. We entered the woods to the east of the campground. We used flashlights to light our way, and I was in the lead and went towards the noise. It seemed fairly close to us. By the time the screams had gone on for 5 to 10 minutes already, as we drew near the noise, which was emanating approximately 200 to 300 feet from the perimeter of the campground, we smelled a foul smell. It smelled like animal droppings, mixed with other odor. The forest around us seemed very loud with brush movement and wood and cracking wood. We decided quickly that we needed to retreat back to the campground. I personally didn't want to have to come face to face with a bear or whatever it was. We got back to the campground and had a general agreement amongst us that it may be something unexplainable. The noise continued for maybe 20 to 25 minutes total. It faded off to the east with what sounded like another similar noise coming from the south. After these particular screams stopped, we could hear the coyotes howling for another 20 minutes. It was a very strange and weird experience. I have never heard anything like this in my life. I've spent a lot of time outdoors, and I have never experienced anything like this. So there was 35 witnesses. I don't think I've come across so many witnesses to one event, but very interesting there. So let's flip back to the map. November 2008, father and son hear a wood knock and find large human-like barefoot tracks while hunting near Trout Lake. So we're all pretty close here next to Trout Lake. 1990, young girl sees road crossing figure during car repair stop. August 1993, campers find footprint in Indian Heaven Wilderness. September 2009, backpackers hear multiple vocalizations while camping near Trout Lake. October 2009, late night crossing sighting by hunters near the eastern boundary of Mount Hood National Forest. Let's just click on this, Gifford Pinchot National Forest. So when I'm clicking on that, you'll see that it's highlighted in the light blue dashed outline of the national forest. August 2002, fishermen encounter upright slender animal near Lone Butte. Okay, let's have a look at this one then. August 2002, a Class A, which is a visual sighting. Skamania County. Nearest town is Carson, Washington. Nearest road is USFS 3220. My son, 31, and myself were returning from a fishing expedition in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest. All of a sudden, less than 100 yards away, we noticed an entirely black, upright creature. Even though we're driving a noisy Cummins diesel, when we came around the corner, going around 15 miles an hour, we managed to startle it. It immediately walked fast, didn't run, from the right to the left, up a hill, and it was gone. Now, this whole event didn't take more than 3 to 4 seconds. We immediately went to the area and investigated. We found one footprint that was about 12 to 13 inches long on the side of the road. This print was made in somewhat soft silt gravel that is so common on Forest Service roads. It was only about a quarter to a third deep at best. Today we're going to try and make a copy of the print. A couple of things about the animal. It was totally black, like a black bear. It had no facial features that we could detect at all. It didn't appear to have a nose, eyes, mouth, or anything that we could see from 100 yards away. The animal was in bright sunlight as it crossed the road. There was no mistaking it for a bear. And bears don't have 6-foot strides. True. The animal appeared to be 8 to 8.5 feet tall and slender build. It wasn't the massive, muscular specimen I have thought if they exist at all. I would estimate the weight in excess of 400 pounds. The animal's arms moved in a pendulum manner, like an ape, not like a human. It moved very fast, but not a run. Okay, so 2 adults. The son, 31 years old, and then a father. So 2 witnesses. September 2010, couple hears strange vocalization at their cabin near Carson. August 1978, Stevenson Ridge vocalization startles father and son. 1950, mother relates story of daughter sighting a large animal near Mill, a school, I don't know what that means. October 1982, hunter observes trio of animals near Nestor Peak Lookout. That's in a different county. We're going to stick with Skamania County. July 1985, campers awakened by late night visitor in the Indian Heaven Wilderness. August 1972, screams terrify campers near Mount St. Helens. March 2001, mountain climbers hear loud scream on Mount St. Helens. August 2007, group of climbers hear possible vocalizations near Cougar. August 1998, family finds track and scat pile while hiking southeast of Mount St. Helens. June 1998, witness heard what sounded like sticks being beaten on wood. June 2003, multiple screams heard. September 2006, elk hunters find large human-like track near Trout Lake. July 1991, climber has nighttime sighting near Mount Adams Wilderness. Okay, let's have a look at this one. July 1991, Skamania County, one of the highest campsites on the north side of Mount Adams, about 100 meters from the road and next to a small stream that flowed north. This campsite is about a 5-minute walk from where the wilderness zone begins and is where our truck could be parked. So the nearest town is Mount Adams Wilderness Area. The nearest road is a park access road. I'm reporting this incident from 1991 because I heard of your group on the radio on the way home from work tonight, and you sounded credible. I served as a U.S. Army infantry sergeant at Fort Lewis, Washington for several years. I'm also an alpine climber. I went to Mount Adams most of the time because it was much more private than other mountains, such as Mount St. Helens Rainier. I also loved the thousands of acres of wilderness area. Another sergeant named Jim Avila, my climbing partner and good friend, and his golden retriever pup were also there. We were only camping and hiking around this trip since we had the puppy with us. Normally we would have camped on a snowfield above the tree line. Just after nightfall we were talking and the puppy was next to the fire. The sky was crystal clear and everything felt normal. Since I spent 6 months out of the year living in the woods and deserts of the western U.S. and Europe in the Army, the night is my ally. I am an expert at what normal feels like. I needed to urinate, so I stood up and walked to my rear about 20 feet, where a path led down to a stream. I could hear and see the slow-moving, shallow water in this gravel-bedded creek. I did my thing and returned to the fire. When we decided to have some fun and see if we could get a coyote to howl, although we were not sure if many would be around, we started to do our best howls to no avail. We continued for about 5 minutes and then stopped. About an hour passed since my previous trip to urinate, and I figured I would go again before getting in the sleeping bag. Jim was across the fire, and I could see my walking toward the spot overlooking the path to the creek where I intended to void my bladder. As my feet stopped, I could hear footsteps in the dry gravel on the other side of the creek bed about 20 feet away. When it heard me stop, it stopped a little too late, and I heard it. I felt intelligence in its movement, not instinct. I froze and drew my pistol. Jim saw this and at the same time said the puppy flew into the cab of the truck. Jim, also sensing something wrong, drew his pistol and stood up. I was looking right where this guy was standing, but could not see him because he was across the water, but still in front of the opposite bank. He was frozen like a rock. Jim came to back me up. He did not know what the hell was going on, and instead of telling him to stop, I just kept my eyes glued to the spot where I knew the guy was, and finally decided to move out. He took 2 strides up the bank away from me, with a look over his right shoulder as he was moving away to the right. His look was concern mixed with childlike fear, as if he really wanted to introduce himself in some way to our wolf-calling group. Also puzzled, like, why are you idiots calling coyotes, you humans, stupid? The most animal-like trait was a sort of very brief mock anger face, which looked like an afterthought, just before the big guy went in the woods. I looked at him, no word. I looked at Jim, no words. We threw most of our stuff in the truck and left in a big hurry. There was no way I was staying in those woods that night. The big guy was huge, but slender, as I recall. Don't ask me how, but I know he was an adolescent. He was sort of like a big kid, but moved like the wind. He saw my eyes, and I saw his. I did not tell Jim what I saw. I never did. I never had to. Please believe me. I swear this account to be true. Thank you, and Godspeed in your search. This is quite the account. And it's quite similar to the other one, where the witness said that the Bigfoot was slender, not a great big, huge, like bulky animal. Slender, tall, slender, Quite interesting. And I've heard of that personally from somebody that I have met, somebody who was in the armed forces, who told me of their account. And that's what they said. Exactly, quite similar to this, a slender, tall being. We'll go back to the map. March 1969, family on vacation finds tracks in an isolated area. June 1991, couple has a sighting of something standing on a gravel road. October 1999, large animal lures men away from possible younger animal near Mount St. Helens. October 1999, Skamania County. Nearest town, Randall. Nearest road, Windy Ridge Road. The first encounter took place at Cascade Mountain Viewpoint on Windy Ridge near Windy Ridge Road. There is a parking lot with a modular building that is a seasonal restaurant overlooking Bear Meadow. We parked at gate on Forest Service Road 2560 looking to the east. It was a family outing. My uncle and my two brothers and I went up to Mount St. Helens to look for Bigfoot. My uncle saw a print back in the 60s, and he has been talking about it all my life. He is getting older now, and this was our first trip to go and look as a group. He has studied Sasquatch for the last 30 years. We drove up Windy Ridge Road from the town, Randall, all the way to the top overlooking Spirit Lake. The weather was really bad. It was raining and sleeting on and off, and very foggy and windy. The parking lot at the top was covered in an inch of slush. The view was obscured by a large cloud. We started driving back down the mountain below the level of the clouds, and we stopped at the Cascade Mountain Viewpoint where there was a modular building and a Forest Service Road 2560 with a locked gate. I stopped the car and was mounting the lens on my camera. My brothers got out of the car to stretch their legs and scan the hills. My uncle was in the back seat of the car with a spotting scope looking down into the meadow to the northeast. My little brother got out of the car and we went to the edge of the valley and let out a hello. I told him to shut up and not do that again. But then, from the back seat, my uncle said that the scream from my brother had spooked something down the meadow and it was bolting around a hill in the middle of the valley, going from left to right and out of sight around a small hill about 400 yards away. He described it as large, black, and walking upright. My uncle was too scared to get out of the car. He said to us brothers, go and have a look up the road to see if we get a better vantage point. The three of us proceeded to walk up the gated road leading up to the ridge with some smaller knolls that ring the meadow. It took us almost 25 minutes up and down the road and 10 minutes scanning the meadow. My brothers and I didn't see it walking off the vantage point where we were, so we headed back to the car. My Uncle Mac was in the car the whole time watching the area where we had spotted it the first time when we left up the road. He said that after three of us rounded the hill and were out of sight, the large Sasquatch walked back into his view, left to right, and proceeded back to where it was before, walking by a small black stump when that then stood up and walked off with it leading what must have been the young in the opposite direction to the three of us were going. He lost sight of it as they walked down deeper into the bare meadow. So basically, they weren't stumps. He thought they would. One was a larger stump and one was a smaller stump, but they were actually a Sasquatch with a smaller Sasquatch. That's what he's saying here. We all loaded into the car and drove a little down the mountain, half a mile, to the miner's car at a parking lot that is near the southern side of Bismarck Mountain. Clearwater Creek runs out of Meadow Lake and under Windy River Road and into Bear Meadow at the miner's car. My uncle and my brother spread out along the road to see if they could tell where these things were crossing the road. I walked down the creek bed from the road into a slight gully and followed it for about 100 yards on the left, staying near the lowest point along a game trail when I came upon a broken tree that had been broken for at least a year, brown needles on the top. I found a large humanoid footprint on a slope next to the tree. Toes were noticeably were noticeable, and they were imprinted in the mud. I went back to the car to get the plaster in the consultation of my older brother, who went to WSU and studied under Dr. Grant. I showed him the print before we poured the cast. He agreed to me it must be a Bigfoot print. It reminded me that we're in the blast area and no one normally walks in this restricted area on the side of the volcano barefoot. It was really cold and raining, so we gathered up half shells of bark, and covered the cast so we could set it up overnight. I went back the next day and retrieved the cast. I have the cast and would like to compare it to others in the same area. That's cool. So basically they're saying it lured them away so it could get its young to safety. It's too bad there's not a photograph of the print. That would be pretty cool, but there isn't anything here. Okay, back to the map. November 1997, creature seen by witnesses at the bottom of the hill. That doesn't tell us much, so let's have a look. That is November 1997. Here we go, a Class A sighting. Nearest town is Cougar, nearest road is FR 80. My son and I were elk hunting in 1997 and were standing on a ridge overlooking a semi-forested flat area below us. The ridge we were on was fir trees and heavy brushy ground cover, and the area between us and the flat area at the bottom of the ridge could not directly be observed. As we were watching the flat area below us for signs of elk, I heard what I thought were two hunters moving slowly up the ridge and softly talking to each other. I could not make out any words, only soft murmuring sound of a voice. I told my son, who was to the left and about 10 feet from me, that I hear two hunters coming toward us, and we'll let them come up so they know we are here. Just as I said that, we heard a heavy thumping sound, which later I thought sounded like heavy footfalls going back down the ridge, and suddenly saw a flash of black at the bottom of the ridge as something vanished into the trees on the flat. At the same time, my son snapped his .300 Winchester Magnum rifle to his shoulder and looked through a scope. He had also seen the black object as it emerged onto the flat. I asked him what the hell it was, and he said, "Dad, I don't know what it was." He said whatever it was big, black, and moving fast into the trees. We both decided it was a black bear. But later on, back at camp, we talked about it, and there was a few questions that we cannot answer. Bears aren't vocal, and I was thoroughly convinced I heard a human voice coming towards us. What did I hear? We heard distinct, heavy footfalls running back down the ridge. A bear runs on all fours, and we did not hear the sound of brush being run through. What was the running down the hill away from us? What was the black, fast-moving creature we had briefly seen at the bottom? Would a hoaxer take a chance like this during elk season and hunters with the high-powered rifles? I have lived and hunted in this area my entire life and would think about this encounter often. We know it wasn't elk, deer, cougar, or bear. What was it? The environment, second growth reforestation on steep ridges with open areas limited to ancient lava and mud flows. Wow, this is really interesting. Who knows? Unexplained. These are experienced hunters, and they just wouldn't. And you know, the guy heard human voices, some kind of voices coming towards them, and then heavy footsteps running away. So anyway, that's it for part one of Washington State. We'll come back and have a look at more stuff. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed these, and if you have any encounters, post them down below, or if you want me to have a look at specific areas of the United States or Canada, let me know. Thanks.